Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries. Today, this evening, middle of the night, morning, whatever it is, it's all the same fucking day, as Janis Joplin used to say. So welcome aboard. As I preview today, it's going to be a lot about my mother, myself, and a group of folks. And I indicated queen parties. I didn't know what else to call them, so I just called them queen parties. It was kind of not a phenomenon, but it was sort of like this dynamic, regular occurrence that would happen with myself and my mother, like I said. Now, I don't mean to go on about her, but let me just put her into a quick context again, very quick. She was fashion director for Saks Fifth Avenue from 60 to 70. She, of course, reported to the executive director of the store, but everything that went on from staffing to what goes into the windows and what goes on Marilyn Monroe's shoulders for her summer wardrobe was my mother's responsibility. My mother also was probably one of the most or more innovative folks at that time in the fashion industry. She would moderate her own fashion shows and she would do them in Gaelic. My mother being born and raised in Ireland, myself 50% full Irish. English and Gaelic were both like second languages to her because you had to learn Gaelic as you did have to learn English where she was from, in Stone Age, like Ireland. And of course, she rose from nothing, My mother was quite an amazing personality, even though, she was no dum-dum. She ran Bongo Tellers practically as fashion coordinator in the Midwest. She came here to Los Angeles, made a name for herself. My mother, some of her leanings were very pro-Palestine. However, she would turn around and raise $250,000 for a fund for Israel. So you never knew what to expect out of her except class, style, and intelligence. So, running Saks, my mother, of course, was a gay man magnet, like nuclear magnet, gay man, magnet, nuclear magnet. These are men that she worked with, again, you can only imagine, some of which all through the 60s. My mother didn't get ready and go to work. My mother got ready, went to work, then got re-readied by the fashion folks, hair, makeup, stylist, well, she could, just say that. And then she'd go to work. So she'd get ready, go to work, get ready, go to work. Probably 5 in the morning. I mean, she was such a workhorse. George Masters, all these famous people that used to work at Saks used to work on her. My mother was a bit of a hero for these gay men. I would not call the LGBT community necessarily an oppressed community, that's debatable, but definitely a persecuted community or communities, and victimized. Ever since the fall of the Roman Empire. That's a whole new set of shows. But nevertheless, and non-comparatively speaking in terms of persecution, of course. Okay, so my mother was a hero to these guys. I mean, and to, ethnicities. My mother was the first to bring African Americans onto the sales floor in Beverly Hills. Her thing was out of the elevators and onto the sales floors, because before then, believe it or not, even when I was a little kid, African Americans would only run the elevators in Beverly Hills. That's all they did. Maybe some custodial work. Well, my mother said, no, at Saks, they're coming out of the elevators and they're going out on the sales floor, and I'm turning them into saleswomen. Anyway, so for all these reasons, my mother was a hero to gay men. She was also a magnet, like I said, for gay men. She's Irish, full Irish, dyed in the wool. Us Irish have a skill for storytelling and a very sharp sense of humor. And my mother was that times 1,000 because she capitalized on that, of course, walking into the 60s, running Saks. It wasn't a gimmick, but, she was known as the Irish lass of Beverly Hills. So, enough of that. So I am intermingled, of course, in all of this. I'm brought to adult parties since I can remember. It was never like, go to this party and go play with the kids. No. It was come with me to the party and just be a part of the party, even though you're 12. And now these are very impressionable ages for me. I am an LGBTQ young boy, man, whatever you want to call in between, twixt in between. All of that time, we are going regularly to parties, gatherings. Again, I was always around adults. Maybe that accounts for some of my precociousness, AKA. So I was always here. And at these parties in particular, which I called queen parties on the preview, were gatherings of very high-end professional gay men who, again, worshipped at the temple of my mother. But, you know, these were men, you know, one like was Nancy Reagan's makeup artist, one was the personal hairstylist for Estee Lauder, casting directors, very, very popular casting directors. Oh my God, you name it in the industry, fashion, hairstylists, big time. But again, very high end. These are still people that worked on a very high end level, whether it was in fashion, beauty, or commercial television. Some commercial television, but it was a little new to her because she stems from this like lineage of fashion. But again, mixed in with this fabulous, everyone was fabulous. What can I say? Casting director. I know names right off the top of my head right now, these places we used to go. So again, this is not just like I went to a couple of these parties and I'm making up a story around it. This is like a regular occurrence. Okay, so not that there's really any kind of point to the parties themselves, both literally and in this story. They were just happenings, I guess you could call them. This is the 1970s, really mid to late 70s, maybe early 80s, but mostly in that period of time. Some of these I knew because I was an actor and some of them were casting directors. They all worshipped me. I could not walk into Saks Fifth Avenue my whole life without some old lady running up to me telling me what a cute baby I was. I mean, in droves, you guys. But this was different. So this was a different kind of crowd. This was a different kind of sensibility. This was a different kind of sense of humor. I'm not saying that the LGBT communities have better senses of humor, but from pain comes great humor sometimes. And we have much reason to feel pain, perhaps more than your run-of-the-mill person, whoever that is. So the senses of humor were very sharp, not gossipy, a little gossipy, but not mean-spirited, but really cutting and really funny and sometimes lighthearted. So there were little gag type, references and like sort of, riffs on things and things that you really had to be kind of sharp to pick up on. Now, like a stupid example is like a very crude example, but kind of lays it out for you. Like, again, they were all master storytellers. And of course, my mother, like could riff off of everyone's story because she was like Queen Raconteur. So, so stupid, you guys. The credits, there's a series called That Girl with Marlo Thomas in the 70s. And so, of course, this, again, excuse me, but this queen knows, like, they all know the credits to That Girl. And in the credits, she does something. And again, this is just a very crude example. And so Mick would turn and go, "You want to see my imitation of Marlo Thomas?" And then be like, "What?" And then he'll go. Now, that may not seem funny unless you've seen the credits to That Girl. The expectation, irony, of course, is that you're going to do an impersonation of Marlo Thomas herself. But the imitation was a gesture that she made in this really campy opening credits of That Girl. So again, that's sort of like the nuanced humor, biting kind of nuanced humor that you would get, that I was exposed to. So my sensibilities vis-a-vis humor were heavily influenced by this atmosphere, this kind of atmosphere, this going to these chic apartments. I'm not talking about like fancy high-rise type stuff. I'm talking about like, the Moorish, fabulous white, 3-story living room apartment from 1920 on Fountain Avenue in Hayworth, or whatever, that the guy was lucky enough to get one of the fourplexes or whatever. And always not catered, but basically, maybe they had the people go in and out, or probably the queen was quite the gourmet. Could have been, probably was. So these were happenings, like I said. They stick with me in little ways, and many of them were sort of carved into my mental plate in terms of, like I said, my sensibilities, my sense of humor, my responsiveness to certain types of humor, and some of the kind of colloquial, references and novellas that I tell here in my stories in certain arenas. So these were these queen parties, as I crudely termed them, and why and what and how, and of course worshiping at the temple of Liz. And I'm not kidding about that. Again, she was kind of a gay men's hero. Because you just did not fuck with my mother if it came to ethnicity or sexual orientation. You just do not do that, and you never did. Because my mother was the type that would quietly walk over to you at a cocktail party and quietly discuss something with you for maybe 20 seconds, and then quietly walk away, and whatever it was that she said made you wish you were never born. So I try to stay away from that proclivity, but I don't know, maybe some of it rubbed off on me. Okay, for better or worse. Thanks again for this evening, today, this morning, middle of the night. I always appreciate your time with me. I don't have to say that, although I do always say that, because you deserve it, and I don't deserve you, but thank you. And of course, I thought of a really cool show tomorrow. And previous teasers, clips, and whatever. So thanks again. Have a good one. And I adore you. Don't forget that. And I will see you soon. Okay, bye.